Hello and welcome back to the Joyful Soul Creates. Charlotte here, and today I'm sharing a video for the World Photo Day YouTube Hub that has been organised by Natalie of Crafting Out Loud. For my take on the hop, I'm going to be making a card as I always do. I know a lot of the other hoppers are doing scrapbooking pages or layouts which lend themselves very well to a photo theme, and it did take me a little while to work out what I wanted to do for the theme, but I decided I would use the Polaroid frame that came in a recent Love from Lizzie card kit and make a photograph looking image as the focal point on my card. For my image, I am using a digi stamp from SheepSki Designs. I actually won one of their challenges recently, and this is one of the images I chose as my prize, and this is called Love My Shoes. You get a few different versions with and without the background, and you get ones where she's in a dress, which I chose, or one where she just has a sheet over her. So I started by colouring the skin on her, and I decided to go for a rich brown colour for her skin, and you can see all the caps for the colours I have used on screen if you'd like to try and recreate this image. I have sped this up quite a lot because it took me a long time to colour this, almost an hour I think, and of course as this is part of a hop we don't want to be spending that long watching me colour. However, if you would like to see it, there is a real-time colouring video for this, which you can find on my Patreon page. That's for patrons, and you can find a link to that in the description box down below if you'd like to take a look. After I'd finished the skin, I next coloured in the skirt of her dress, and I'm using some blues for this. I wasn't sure what colours would go best with that frame because the frame obviously has colour on it. It has kind of rosy gold pinky colour. I actually used a website to help me choose my colours, and I can link to that in the description box as well. I believe I used Canva, and you can select what kind of colour group you want to use and you can tell it what your starting colour is. So I looked up what the hex code for rose gold is, found one that matched well with the frame, and then chose my other colours based on that. The colours I have used aren't exactly what the result was, but I don't have the largest selection of alcohol markers, so I basically just did as close as I could get to it with what I had available to me. I did go over the skirt twice just to make sure I had it blended how I wanted and that the shadows and highlights looked right. These kinds of folded materials can be quite difficult with trying to work out where the shadows and highlights should be, but if you just look at the image, generally you can get a rough idea of it, and to be honest, as long as you have some shadow areas and some highlight areas and try to be consistent with them, it should look right in the end. Next I moved on to the armchair in the background, and I'm trying to use the window as my light source, so a lot of this armchair is going to be casting shadow onto itself, so it will have a lot of darker areas, which is why I'm mostly laying down shadow areas. I did go across pretty much the whole image with my second lightest colour to start with, leaving just the highlight areas blank, and then I went back over everything with the darker colours to help blend it out, and finally with the lightest colour to add the highlights. And whilst I'm colouring that, I'll just quickly let you know that, as I said, this video is part of the hop for World Photo Day, which if you're watching this the day it goes live, then that's today. There are links down in the description box where you can find the other videos from the other creators who are taking part in the hop, so do be sure to head over to see what they have made for Photo Day. Once I was happy with the armchair, I did colour in the mattress or carpet or whatever it is she's lying on, just with some light ivory colours, and actually it turns out I wouldn't have needed to do that because my frame ends up covering that up. I then moved on to my curtains, and I decided to go pink for these. As with the skirt, the curtains are a bit tricky to work out because they have those folds in them, so I just kind of alternated between each area. So on this first curtain, the first piece of curtain I'm imagining is outwards, so it will be lightest next to the window, and then the piece next to it is more inset, so that will be darker. So I use a darker shade as my darkest tone in those inset pieces and don't use my lightest shade on those inset pieces. And then I'll repeat the process on the second curtain on the right hand side of the image. This one was actually a little bit trickier than the first one because it goes behind those shoes, and there are a couple of places that it took me a moment to work out which part of the curtain they belonged to, but I did manage it in the end. I do occasionally go in with my blender pen just to clean up any areas where I went over the line. At this stage I decided to fill out the view through the window, and I'm just using a very light blue to kind of sketchily add some sky and leave some white areas to look like clouds. I'll then use a light brown to add in the slats of the windows. I didn't bother adding any shadows there because it's so narrow. And then to make it look like glass, I'm using a blue-green colour to add some shading across the glass and make it look a bit more realistic. At this stage I thought I'd colour the top part of her dress white with just some grey shading to add dimension to it, and I did colour her shoes grey at this stage as well, and as these would be mostly in shadow because the light's behind them, they are very grey even though they're meant to be white. And then I changed my mind and decided instead I would colour them purple. So the grey basically adds the shading for me, but I did go in with 2 shades of purple over that grey just to get the depth of colour I wanted, and coloured them a very light purple. I also used that purple on the little bit at the bottom of the heels, and then used my greys to colour the soles of the shoes. And then for the walls I'm going to use eggshell just to add a very light colour along the walls so that they are not left blank. And that completes the colouring portion. So here you can see how it looks with the frame added over the top, and I'm going to use my Tombow monomalte liquid glue to adhere that onto the panel. I chose to use a liquid glue because this will give me some wiggle time to get the frame correctly into position if I don't get it quite lined up. And I did cut my panel to be a bit larger than my image so that I would have enough room to adhere it on. And once I had the frame placed down, I did place a acrylic block onto it just to hold it into place whilst the glue set. I then used my scissors once I was happy that it was all dried to trim away any overhanging pieces, and I angled my scissors slightly so that I would be almost cutting under the frame to make sure there weren't any bits of that paper sticking out. I then chose a card base. This is a kind of creamy coloured card base which entirely by coincidence is almost the exact same colour that I used for the wallpaper, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment onto the bottom right hand corner. I'm using a sentiment from 3 Room Studios. I think this stamp set's called Retail Therapy, and it says do what you want, which I thought worked well for this image of someone lazily enjoying themselves. So I stamped that twice with Versafine Onyx black ink to get a nice dark impression. And then I'll bring back my Tombow monomalte liquid glue again and put that onto the back of the image, and added it onto the card base at an angle just to give it a bit more interest. Again, I'm going to put a block on top of it to hold it whilst the glue sets. And that completes my card for World Photo Day. I hope you enjoyed this. I know it was very colouring heavy, but hopefully you learnt something from it. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of this video, if you'd like to see more colouring videos or if you prefer seeing more technique focused videos. If you did like this video, please do press the like button. If you didn't, the dislike button's right next to it. Don't forget to check the description box for the links to the other participants of the hop, and also there are links to the product I have used down there as well. If you're not yet a subscriber, you can subscribe to my channel by clicking my logo that's showing on screen right now, and there are a couple of other videos if you'd like to see more from me right away. Otherwise, I'll thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye!